Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that's smart, we have a special guest. He flew up all the way from Atlanta. We have the VP of Sales at SalesLoft, a man that took Pardot. Maybe you've heard of it. It's Pardot, not Pardot. I just pronounced it right here.
That's right.
I thought it was French.
Yeah, we're not French.
No. But he took Pardot from a pre-revenue startup, which many of us work at, to a $100 million exit to Exact Target, which was then bought by Salesforce. Derek now works at SalesLoft, a sales acceleration platform. Many of you are familiar with their previous product, Prospector, their current product, Cadence. It's a killer application. Hopefully we'll cover some of it. He also has a killer Southern Comfort accent. I love it. I can listen to it all day long. So maybe a podcast.
There you go. You're going to translate what I say for that.
No worries.
If I throw a y'all in there, you're going to be able to.
You all.
You all. That means you guys here in the city. Awesome.
Cool. Without further ado, Derek Grant. Big round of applause. So tonight's topic is near and dear to my heart as a former SDR manager. It's really difficult to build value. So that's the topic for tonight, build value. Before we get into that, I know I gave you a bit of an introduction. Can you give us like a high-level overview of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So I came from a very small town, Tallahassee, Florida, and went to Florida State, the Harvard of Tallahassee, Florida. So use very small words if you have any questions, very, very small words. But worked for the one technology company there in town and somehow managed to survive long enough to wind up in a sales role. I guess attrition actually worked out in my favor. Sold enterprise technology to government as my very first sales job for a few years, and then was flying through Atlanta. It was coming through, at the time it was the Crown Room, now the Sky Club, and I was confirming appointments. I worked in a place no one would want to. I had Arkansas, Minnesota, like when you cringe about the places you're never going to go in your life, that was my patch. Really high tech, as you can imagine. And I was confirming appointments, and I didn't know this guy who was sitting behind me, never introduced himself, wrote down my contact info and called me a couple days later and said, I know this is weird, we never met, but I want you to come work for us. And I was flattered, and I took the job, and then I realized I was now the lead salesperson for a psychiatric hospital. Swear to God. I'll tell you about that if you're ever curious. And then somehow just wound up in my now wife, wound up in Atlanta, and found Pardot on Craigslist, looking for a used sofa, or I can make any other number of jokes there. Found Pardot on Craigslist, and it was a great ride, and sort of wind up now at SalesLoft, a company that is out of that same group of people. So really, really exciting.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So back to the topic, value, right? As an SDR, you tip the spear, trying to generate some attention, some interest, and pass it on to the account executive. You want to get the meeting with them, you have to give them something. We call it value. It's a super fuzzy term. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how, number one, what is value, and how do you relate that?
My sort of gut reaction is I thought about the topic, and I was trying to sort of quantify value, particularly from a sales development perspective. It really, I think, has to do with some sort of an insight. I think there's something that the SDR has got to say based on research, based on knowing of their situation, that will help the person be able to have a moment where they're willing to invest another moment. And then maybe a disco call, and then maybe a demo, or whatever your particular process is. I was reading a Jeffrey James article. If you guys don't read him, he's an Inc. contributor. He's awesome. And he was talking about the salesy tactics that always fail. And I think so often as sales and sales development folks, we're like, what if I could show you how to? And that's not an insight. That's a packaged sales pitch, which is paper thin, it's super transparent. But if you can tell them genuinely how to run their business better, if you can tell them how to cut their costs, if you can tell them how to improve ROI, then you really, I think, can show enough value to where they will actually invest for that next step.
Okay. So the goal here is to get them to that moment. You're selling. So some people wait a lifetime for a moment.
Oh, there you go. Last night, yeah.
Sorry, exactly.
That was a one shiny moment, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, wrong song. But okay, so you have to get them to that moment. You have to do enough research. How do you tee that up? Is there a framework for that?
Yeah, it's interesting. The insight doesn't work. You're stuck with really transparent sales pitches if you haven't done research. And so the insight can exist if you know more about their situation than maybe the average person who is also vying for their time. And so we actually do have a terrific framework at SalesLoft, and I'll share with you a couple of the key parts of it. The first one is, what can you learn about them without ever talking? And that's a really big one. How many of you sell technology that is JavaScript enabled? How many of you have, I feel like I just asked the wrong question. Let me start over. How many of you have heard of Ghostery? All right, so if you go to a company's website and you're using a little extension called Ghostery, it can tell you what technologies exist out on that website. And it was really, really helpful to us in the marketing automation realm because we could see if they were using a HubSpot, a Marketo, an Eloqua. And so when we would call and say, hey, a lot of people who are using Eloqua actually complain of X, Y, and Z, they would always be surprised. How did you know I'm using Eloqua? There's 10 ways to get that, but the easiest way to get it was just to go out and look on their website and see what data you could get. How many of you have seen Built With? Built With, another wonderful plugin to be able to know what types of technology they're using on their site. What about 3x3 research? How many of you have even heard of the idea of 3x3 research? 3 interesting things in 3 minutes. Now, can I tell you guys a sad story? It's really sad. I mean, is there, yeah? Okay, I don't want to bring us down here on a Tuesday, but I'm willing to. So, how many of you have ever done a personality profile? I don't mean like a Match.com profile. I have to, sorry. Like personality profile. There's this one called DISC. And it's dominant influencer, submissive, which they now call supportive, and C is compliant. Everything has changed in the new world. You have to be, really thoughtful in the way that you describe submissive, now supportive. We had this unbelievable sales rep, and we did a DISC profile because we had a really simple idea. We should hire a bunch of him. This will go great. He's awesome. Hire a bunch of him, and he's a C. And a C is compliant. And a C is a person who, if you're thinking about measure twice and cut once, they measure 37 times and finally make the cut. So we hire a bunch of reps who look and feel exactly like this. They all score really high in the C category. And they would do hours of research. And they knew the guys. School we went to, the kid's name, and how they did the T-ball game last week, and would call. They finally would get up the courage to call because they knew enough, and it'd go to voicemail. And that's an hour you can never get back. That's an hour of research wasted. And so the idea of 3x3 research is 3 minutes, 3 interesting things. Use social media. A really simple one is, what are they posting about it? A tip that our SDRs use is they will go and follow the person on LinkedIn. Doesn't cost you anything to follow. It's asynchronous, much like Twitter. They don't have to authorize you. They don't have to accept your friend request. What they see is Derek Grant wants to hear what they have to say. And then once you follow them, what are they talking about? What groups are they associated with? If the person's part of like the Salesforce enthusiast group, I don't know, I could probably make some assumptions that they're probably using Salesforce as a CRM. And if that's a good marker for my business, that helps me know more about their situation. And then once we've done the research, we've used technology to help us understand what their tech stack looks like. We've used social media to understand what's important to them and to understand, maybe even learn a little bit about the technology that they're leveraging. Then we do a discovery cadence. And how many of you have ever done a discovery call? Let me start with that. Let me word that differently. How many of you ever called someone in a business who you didn't want to talk to, but you called them intentionally? There you go. Okay, so this is something that our SDRs just started doing. It's brilliant. So we sell to sales leaders and sales development leaders. So what does every business have on their phone? Push 1 for sales. So we just call and get the most junior level salesperson, and we pump that person for information like you wouldn't believe. What CRM are you using? What's your process look like? How many people are making the number? And we are just, this person, by the time they realize what's happened, they've told us everything. But they don't influence the buying decision, but they've given us all this great information that we then use to actually approach our buyer and have a really compelling and specific conversation with about what's happening, what their tools are, how we can add value. And so for us, it's all about getting the right information. If you have the right information, you can deliver those insights. And there's a lot of good ways to get that info.
Cool. All right. Sneaky but effective.
Very sneaky.
Okay, cool. So you want to get into the moment. You've done all this pre-call research. You find out, you learn as much about them as you can before you can talk to them. Call the junior guy.
Yes.
And then you're on the phone. What is the framework for having a value-driven conversation?
I think the real key to getting into value is having the information we talked about earlier, and then being really, really coached up on what that means to your business and to your target buyer. One of our customers is MuleSoft, and they had a great Gartner article that talked about some of their process and some of the things that they do. And one of the really insightful things that they came up with was they have a 24-year-old calling on a publicly traded CIO. This person's forgotten more in their life about whatever topic it is than they will ever know. And so what they do is they spend a lot of time with products marketing. Come over and teach us about the tool. They spend time with customer panels, explain to us what the situation is, explain how this would help. They do a ton of research before going in, and they actually have product experts help write their emails because they are so specific so that they can add that value right out of the gate. But for us, make the call. Go in, and a model that I like to use is to start by buttering them up. Is that a New York term? Do New Yorkers get the term buttering up? No, it's an honest question. I don't know. I'm new here. I'm a stranger in a strange land here. Schmooze! You're schmoozing them. Thank you. All right, it's okay. Schmooze. So our model always starts with buttering them up first. People love hearing the sound of their own name. People love you thinking they're the smartest person in the room. And if you can help them believe that to be true, the conversation takes a totally different turn. And we don't start with platitudes like "How are you?" because they are not doing well because they realize they just got cold called. I know a lot of people; they're instantly in a bad place. And a lot of people love that. It's it's a closed-ended question. I don't love that, but we start off by saying, "Hey, I understand you're the person in charge of all the decisions related to swapping whatever technology stack is that you say." Really simple. So at this point, the person is, and of course, what's their reaction? Yeah, I'm that person. That me, in charge of all the things. It's this guy. Two thumbs pointing right here. And then from there, we will pivot to status-centric questions to confirm what we already know. And that may seem redundant, but if you come in and fly in with the value prop over the top row, that's not going to go well, right? Because they're like, how do you know all these things? So it's like, hey, just a couple questions, just to make sure I'm not barking up the wrong tree. Now validate the things that you found during your discovery phase. Validate the things that you found. I just a couple questions. By the way, you're using Salesforce.com, right? Yes. That's awesome. We're actually an app exchange partner. We're at Dreamforce. Man, I tell you, a lot of people killed a lot of brain cells at that event. Hey, a couple other questions now. Now you've got SDRs now. Do they have a process? Because you already know this, right? But you're getting them to say it and verbalize it. And then once you've gotten a couple of implication questions or a couple of status questions out, then you go with the killer implication question. At this point, it's what if I could tell you? Now you can go with the what if I could tell you. One that we used really effectively at Pardot was we would walk them into a choke point where the two status questions set us up for a question that only had three possible answers. And you can be super smart about those three answers. You can coach, rehearse those three answers over and over and over again. There was a guy, I was telling you the story earlier, there's a guy named Jeff, I won't say his last name, it's being recorded for posterity's sake. Jeff was really, he's not on our team now, Tyler. I know you're thinking like, which Jeff is it? It's from another company. Jeff was awful at delivering the value prop. He's just awful. And they talk about the 80-20 rule that you spend 80% of your time on the bottom 20% of your producers, and I exhibited this behavior. I was going to get Jeff good, and we would lock ourselves in a room, and we would say, ring, ring, and he'd go, hey, this is Jeff, how are you? Terrible, start over, ring, ring. We would go again, we did this for hours and hours and hours on end. But what we wanted to do was say, this is Jeff with, at the time, Pardot. I understand you're the person in charge of all the marketing decisions. Two status questions. Who's your CRM? We already knew that. Who's your email marketing vendor? We knew that. Complement both, and then ask one simple question. Hey Jeff, you guys have a pretty complex sale, and so-and-so MailChimp, let's use an example, doesn't do prospect nurturing, so just tell me what you know for prospect nurturing, and then just stop. Silence. Go dead in the water. And there were only three answers. My reps do it, which is laughable. We actually, on the script, instructed the reps to laugh out loud. At this point, what? We can hardly get reps to even follow up with leads. You're telling me yours are actually reaching out and nurturing them over a long sales cycle, these long tail leads? That seems crazy. Sending a newsletter, which is the single most impersonal thing, we would coach them up on that. Or we're not doing it, and then we talk about the cost of inaction. But it was at that point that we were able to begin adding value because we could break through some of the lies that they told themselves. And we made them actually explain what it was they were doing, and then we were able to really sort of redirect and use verbal judo to give them to me. We had a 23% conversion rate from call into demo, so 1 in 4 over 3 years. Yeah, I mean, it works. But the idea was you don't ask a question that anyone, that the consideration says anything. That's impossible, right? Your reps are never going to be walk them into a choke point, walk them into a valley where they can only go one of a few different directions, and then know that thing deeply, know those things deeply. And it's once you can break through the guardedness, then you can begin adding value based on the choke.
Well, you know what? Quick aside, one of the best feedback pieces we get is that this is a very tactical meetup. You get to go home and think about it and go to work the next day and use something. Would you be willing to do a role play with me right now?
I would.
Interested, crowd? Yeah.
All right. So you say you guys have heard some of the steps, so you'll hear some of the actual verbal judo-y side stuff. But just start by saying ring ring.
Ring ring.
Hi, Duran. This is Derek Grant with SalesLoft. I understand you're the person in charge of all the online marketing decisions over at Smart.
Yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. Hey, just like really a couple of questions. By the way, we worked with a sales trainer, breaking character. We worked with a sales trainer whose comment was that you should actually stutter during this. And I know it seems like it may be a little bit odd, but it doesn't sound so damn rehearsed. Hey, a quick question here. So we can start there. Great. A couple of tactical questions to make sure I'm not barking up the wrong tree, not wasting your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you know, I've got 2 minutes. I got to jump to a meeting.
Yeah, we'll be super quick here. What CRM are you using?
Salesforce.
Unbelievable, yeah, great CRM. We use them as well. They're outstanding. And from an email marketing perspective,
We are on HubSpot.
HubSpot. That's great. I will tell you that HubSpot's a great. You actually use one that actually is a marketing automation vendor. Say MailChimp.
MailChimp.
There you go. Thank you. I'm moving on. MailChimp, outstanding Atlanta-based company. We love them a ton. Hey, based on your sales cycle, tell me how you're nurturing prospects using MailChimp.
I'm sorry, nurture with MailChimp? We don't actually nurture with MailChimp.
You don't do any nurturing. What do you think? Do all of your prospects pick up the phone on the first time, or do they buy on the very first interaction?
Not Derek. Who does that?
Well, it's a legit question. So, what happens with those leads? You're spending a fortune to generate those leads. What do you do with them?
Yeah. Well, we just figured that they'll come back. We have
They'll
some
come
really
back. If you build it, they will come.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes. Okay. All right. So
killer.
All right. So the product is killer. That's awesome. And so I would assume that you guys have a freemium model.
No free trial.
Okay, so literally, if they don't buy from you while you're top of mind, you never hear from them again. They'll just come back as the theory.
No, you know what I put it? No, yeah. It's
They're just gonna magically find their way back to you.
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally, I'd be 10 feet tall and playing the NBA down the Madison Square Garden. Ideally, how realistic is that? What's your conversion rate?
Yeah, well, the truth is, Derek, it's not great for us. But we don't do much nurturing, and I guess it's not a priority, just because we focus on outbound prospecting. And
Which
if
is
it's a no, we move on to someone else.
Which is incredible. Those people you actually have invested time to source and to be able to generate. Why would you not want to nurture them if your SDRs can't actually get through? Maybe it's sort of a long tail, long-term drip program.
Yeah, that's fair. The truth is, I guess we don't really have a solution for it.
I'll tell you, have you ever thought about how much money you would make if you could even produce and flip just a small percentage of those into paying customers?
I present it to the board every quarter.
They present it to the board. What is your conversion rate today?
25%.
25%. Now, if you could ratchet that up by, let's say, even 5%, what would that do to your top line?
Millions in revenue.
Millions of revenue. Okay, but you're choosing not to do this because you guys are people just come back to you. You should totally have a conversation. Listen, can I set you up with a product expert next week? I'm telling you, it's so easy.
Sure.
Even a Florida State guy can explain.
Sure thing. All right, Terry.
All right, so. Wasn't just the one vendor.
That's what we use here.
We would have known that you used HubSpot going in, though. We would have.
That's right. Very cool. All right, guys, that was a weak round of applause. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Cool. That was really impressive. I hope you guys can use that moving forward from here. Awesome. Okay, so one of the big pitfalls, and I've experienced it as an SDR, my team definitely has, you launch into features. You just launch into features, and it's kind of related to throwing something over the top of the rope that you mentioned, right? You start with value. And other times you just want to go, whoa, we've got in-context translation, and I know you don't have that. Isn't that cool? And it's there. It's not a good way to start. How would you advise an SDR manager to coach their team? You don't want to have a feature conversation. You feel like it's going that way. How do you bring it back to that?
We were just doing some training. We actually hired 4 new AEs this past week, and so we've got, we actually did some training actually via Google Hangouts today. even while I was here in New York. But one of the things that we always focus on is mapping the feature back to the benefit. And so if it does start to go feature heavy, we actually have a 40-page playbook which will grow and grow and grow. I feel confident. But we have the features, what it is that they're going to actually use and why they should care about those things, what the actual outcome of those things would be. So if it does start going feature heavy, I think we need to swing them back around to benefits. And one of the big challenges, the SDR, in many cases, the AE is not fully qualified to talk feature. And that's not really how sales happen anyway. The AE may actually have a sales engineer that needs to qualify on features. So the further you can get back from actual feature and move into sort of a value-based conversation, the better. My theory on value is never, ever, ever talk specifics around features. And here's why. Our understanding is competitor X doesn't do Y. Actually, competitor X just rolled that out last month. And it's your product marketing people's fault, but it's actually your fault for saying something so specific that could be so easily defeated. Think in terms of themes. A lot of people tell us that competitor X doesn't really provide great ROI for the value. People say they don't really iterate as fast as us. We've actually changed three vendors over from them to us in the span of the last few weeks because of the fact that our service or support is better. Because once you dig in and back yourself and paint yourself into the corner of they don't have feature X, they could add that. And when you're selling to enterprises have a lot of extra money laying around. They may have spent a fortune to have a third-party consulting company come in and build this integration that your vendor doesn't have. So always try and back it away from features. Always try and take it up a level to value. And let the salesperson, in some cases, depending on the type of sales engineer, actually be the ones that are determining which features are going to be the ones that are most valuable. Cool. How many of those of you have ever said a competitor X doesn't do feature Y and have had that blow up in your face? God, that's a bad one too. And just as fast as you can innovate, they can too. And they don't call you to let you know that they just built it. Hey, by the way, you stop saying that shit about us, right? They don't say that. You literally walk into it, blows up in your face, and then an email goes around, right? Like, hey, don't say this. Competitor X is beta testing feature Y. But just if you go in so specific and so exacting and you're wrong, you have zero chance. If you go in broadly, thematically, you may be able to start finding a pain that they actually agree with.
Okay, cool. And similar question with price. You just want to know how much it costs.
Don't ever. How many of you talk price? It's okay. I'll tell you something. So it's okay if SDRs do talk price. And this is, you probably would. First of all, salespeople hate it. So don't tell any of them I told you this because they'll be mad at me. Generally speaking, if you're thinking in terms of price, you need to give them something well, what's it going to cost me? Something Salesforce did a really nice job of is they had Sandler come in and train. Mm-hmm. And they would use the concept of our average, in particular on inbounds, right? You want to make sure that you're sort of getting rid of the ones that maybe are a little too low down the value chain to get value from your product. So say, well, our average customer spends about $100,000 with us per year. So you're not trying to actually spec out their pricing, but rather say, well, it's sort of an average. And if the person makes this sound, then you can hang up the phone because they're not a good prospect, right? Or at least that person doesn't get what the value is. Maybe you need to go back in and sort of re-engage. But truly, one of the big challenges with once pricing has come out of the SDR's mouth, the prospect is anchored to it. And once they're anchored to it, that is now the new reality. And I will tell you that I don't know that our SDRs would be able to articulate if they would fall into edition 1, edition 2, or edition 3. Right? They're talking broadly thematically. And so if they tell them it's edition 1, but I do some discovery, and then in our conversations we find they're at edition 3, there's a price delta there that in the person's mind they can't get past because it's been said by the SDR it would be this. So just pick a middle number, pick a big enough number that you can sort of keep the riffraff out, right? If your average sale price is, let's say, $12,000, maybe say it's $18,000. Just pick a number, and you find the people who bristle back at that, and either you need to go back to the value drawing board, or they don't have BANT, they don't have B for BANT, they don't have M for money in the ANIM idea, and you can go and spend your time elsewhere with a better deal. But yeah, if you're going to talk price, always do it super general.
Cool. Okay, so do you want to expand a little bit on some tactical conversations you might have, early stage prospect, value driven?
Yeah, I would say the tactical conversations that we're having. So for us, it's all about ROI selling. And then this is a sort of a SalesLoft model, so I'll share with you guys the model that we employ. But from a tactical perspective, we need to be able to show value. How many people have ever sold to someone and they're like, man, that's neat? I mean, you ever have someone say neat on the phone? That person didn't buy. That person never bought anything. Because neat doesn't buy. Neat doesn't solve the business problem. Neat is impossible to get them to spend money. And so for us, we actually, we have our folks qualify, our SDRs in particular qualify on tech stack. We have them to make sure that there's compatibility. We assume they're going to be a good fit because we do account-based sales development, so we assume it's the right company, right person at the right company. So now it falls on the sales rep to be able to qualify them for need. And the way we qualify for need is to ask tactical questions like, how many activities, and I sell to teams that manage, or people that manage SDRs, how many activities do your SDRs do every day? In your mind, someone shout out a number.
70.
70 a day. All right. How many of those are phone calls?
30.
30. Okay, so they're doing 30 phone calls. And of that, like, what do they get judged on? Like, are they judged on meeting schedule or flips or pipeline? Like, how do you know they're doing a good job?
Meeting schedule.
Meeting schedule. What is their goal on a weekly basis for meeting schedule?
Weekly, we don't track weekly.
What's monthly?
Just about 10.
10. All right, so you're doing 10, so that's 2.5 a week. And so a given week for your folks, going to be 350 total activities. Of that of that 150 will be phone calls, and you're scheduling 2.5 meetings. Now, what is your average sale price?
About 15,000.
Just make it up, right? We're just totally 15,000. So you're, and any idea what your close rate is? I know maybe that's not really in your department.
No, I haven't seen. I don't really see that data.
Another Sandler method. When you hit this roadblock, what's your gut say?
I don't want to tell you.
That's okay. Like 1 in 4, 1 in 3? Would you say it's like 1 in 3?
Somewhere around there.
It's somewhere around there? Okay, so we'll just assume 30%. Does that seem reasonable?
That's fine.
Okay, so in a given week, your folks are doing 350 activities, 150 of those are phone calls. They're scheduling 2.5 meetings. Those meetings are worth $15,000 per, and you're closing 1/3. What if I could double the top number? What if I don't change any other number through the entire funnel? If your person could do 700 activities and 300 phone calls, which is like, I think that's too much. I don't, breaking character, I don't think you can personalize at that scale. It's like, if I could change that top number and didn't change any other thought in the rest of the funnel, how would that drive your business? Would that put tens of thousands of dollars on the table? And once we get this info, we then use it to build an ROI case where we present that to them and say, look, every day you're not using this, every day or week or month you're not using this, it's costing tens of thousands of dollars. And it really is getting into what it is they're actually doing, and then it's getting into what their goals are, it's how are you going to get to those goals, and if we could accelerate the top of the funnel, how would that actually impact your goal? That's how we can get to talking value with the person. And at that point, cost becomes less of a thing because you're saying, look, I'm not asking for a kidney here. It's just hundreds of dollars versus tens of thousands of dollars on a, hundreds of dollars per rep versus tens of thousands of dollars per rep of efficiency I'm giving you each and every week or month. At that point, then you can have the cost conversation because the value's already been established.
That was really cool. That was really cool. You know, I lost sight of where you were going. I was like so focused on understanding, where you're at, because the question just seems so genuine. Meg's answers were good too. But no, but that was great. I that's the kind of conversation if I heard as like an SDR manager, I'd buy the guy like I didn't know, or the SDR like a cake or something like that.
Yes, a cake. Everyone likes cake.
Everyone likes
cake.
cake.
Some of there's gonna be cake. There's gonna be pizza.
Don't check the BMI on my team. It's
Cake is next month.
the cake is next month. But I just want to highlight before we move on, like asking those questions where you're coming in as the expert. You know so much about their business. You know the metrics that they care about. You're an SDR, you don't care about their metrics. You shouldn't at least, right? But you really truly care to build out that ROI, and you're asking genuine questions that they feel comfortable answering you as the prospect there. And you were able to use that to turn it back, and the value came out of nowhere. I was just like, damn it, that's where he was going. And then, really cool, really impressive. Just want to highlight that. Anyway, okay, cool. You're an SDR, right?
Yes.
Very uncomfortable. You're
I'm very awkward. I don't know what to do with my hands.
That's me every day. You're trying to train, you're trying to get better, but you keep falling into the feature trap? How do you get better? What's your framework? What's your process for training to get better?
For us, we invest a ton in training. We're not as heavy as MuleSoft, which I referenced earlier, but we do weekly training for our team. We do weekly sales meeting-centric training. But one of the most impactful things that our SDRs do is they go and sit in on meetings that they have scheduled. And so the disco, they actually, how many of you, do you call it disco? How many of you do disco? How many of you do demo? Disco? Demo? All right, that's fair. There's some level of discovery at the beginning of a demo. You may not sit through the same droning and clicking and the same jokes every time, but sitting in at the beginning of the meetings and understanding the questions that are being asked, the genuine pain, and you're hearing, it's not an expert, but it's a more seasoned person who has done this more times, uncover more pain, and be able to sort of engage this person in hand-to-hand verbal judo during the discovery call and start to ferret out what it is that actually matters to them. How many of you sit in on disco calls right now? That number should be 100%. I will tell you, if you guys want something tactically to go do, go and sit in on a meeting tomorrow that you scheduled for one of your SDRs. Find one, or for your aides, and that you were super excited about. Go and sit in on that and see how the AE treats it. The AE's going to be a little taken back, but they're going to be on the stage and hear what they ask, hear what they say, hear what they do. You'll see some blind alleys they'll walk down, and they'll help you learn not to walk down those. You'll hear some aha, eureka moments that the person that they lead the person to. But that's the best way to get better at selling value, is hearing what the person who actually has to sell the value is having to go through to be able to engage those prospects. I would challenge you guys all to sit in on at least one meeting a week. We don't ask our SDRs to sit in. Our folks are doing 24 meetings a month. And so they can't sit in on all of those. That would literally be over half of a week of their effectiveness knocked down. But it's just go to a couple. Go to a couple you're genuinely excited about. You had a conversation with the guy's telling you no. You were able to get him to a yes. The one that really got you jacked about the week. Go sit in on that one and do it tomorrow. Do it this week, and kind of hear how the AE engages. I think you'll probably be surprised. In some cases, you'll be like, that's all it is? That's all it takes to be a salesperson? I can do that right now, and you probably can. But truly, it's powerful to hear what they ask and be able to see how prospects respond to it.
Awesome. We actually built that into our training.
Is that right? That's perfect. Yeah.
Obligated to go first 5 you set up.
Good.
And then people just go because it's great.
It is.
Things go.
It's kind of awkward for the salesperson initially, because now they have someone else in the room. They may feel like they're being judged, so you may actually have to sort of coddle them a little bit, which seems weird. You would have to coddle an AE, but hey, it's fine. Just here to learn. Really disarm them, because I could see them being a little off script or a little jumpy with another set of eyes in the room. But don't let them be that. It's I just want to be here. I just want to learn. I'm genuinely curious what happens now.
Cool. Great advice. Can you shed some light on the tech stack over at SalesLoft? What would you suggest for a team to use?
Let me ask, how many of you, I'll just sort of ask for a show of hands. How many of you the biggest challenge is finding data? Okay.
Like what data?
What's that?
Like what data?
Like prospect data. Yeah, I'm sorry. Finding the people to reach out to. All right. So there's some. How many of you? It's about doing more, accelerating the activities. You? Okay. So our tech stack is, we use our old Prospector products, but we also use data tools from companies like Datanyze and Ringlead, which is here in New York, to be able to source prospect data. It's how many of you have a quota for how many leads you're to source on a given day or week? What's that number?
I got 10 a month.
10 a month? That's not bad. I'll tell you, in the early days of SalesLoft, in what was a greenfield marketplace, it was at 50 new people a day. How many of you have a bristle back at that? I mean, that sound crazy? Yeah. But in a greenfield, you can do that, right? And so they would find 50 a day. We've moved to an account-based sales development model very similar to what you guys have. And so now, instead of finding more companies, yes.
Is that 50 appointments or 50?
No. I'm sorry. Finding 50 net new people to run through a process each and every day.
I have 100 a month to add net new people every
You're
single
doing
month.
100. So these people are doing. So our folks are doing 200. They're doing 1,000 a month. So doing they were doing a 10x multiple of that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. What happens is once you scale, you start going into, you have the first 1,000 are right person, right company. And then you start getting into right person, wrong company. And then you get into wrong person, wrong company. And now it's like Dante's 7th layer of hell. And so account-based sales development is the way to go. Because like you want to sell to all those companies. Like, they're the coolest companies in the world. But for us, it's using our own product, our old sunsetted product, Prospector, as well as Datanyze, as well as Ringlead, to be able to find these prospects. Then they run them through our Cadence application, which is designed to help reps call and email more efficiently and more effectively. Our reps on a given week, and again, I will just sort of share numbers. So they do a total of 600 activities per week, 500 emails, 100 phone calls. Of that, they have a 1% response rate on email and a 5% response rate on the phone calls. And so like they're able to, they're being asked to do a lot. Our technology just makes it easy for them to run at that scale and that level of efficiency. And then all the data makes its way into Salesforce.com. And they're able to, and then the opportunity gets flipped to us, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Cool.
And we use Join Me and Right Signature and some other things like that.
Nice. Okay, I don't want to go too far off the topic, but account-based sales dev is super hot right now.
Yes, it is.
Super hot right now. It's something that our team moved to after we burned through all our contacts. We use a lot of sales acceleration platforms. Even hacked HubSpot to be able to send like 1,000 emails a week.
That's right. Yep.
But 3-4 weeks after that, we couldn't call anyone. Because
That's
we
the
just called
challenge.
them. So can you expand a little bit, tell everybody what account-based sales development is, the challenges you ran into, and then how you solve them?
Would anyone in here say they're doing account-based sales development? Okay.
My team should be raising their hands, and they're not.
What? Squirrel! So account-based sales development is, how many of you support field-based sales reps? They're in a territory. A few? Not many? Okay. So that sales rep has, their territory is, let's say, 400 accounts. And they can't go and sell to someone out in Toledo. They can only sell to their patch of 400. The idea of account-based sales development is just simply giving a patch or a territory list or a list that you don't go outside of to each SDR. And these are like the coolest logos. This is the Deloitte Fast 500. This is the Inc. 500 or 5000. This is everyone that gets funded through Crunchbase for a B series round, like whatever the list is. But you said you can only call on these, and then that means that every meeting that your AE gets should have a much lower level of disqualification because you pick the companies. And then you just go in as the SDR and find the right person to call at those companies. We actually saw our DQ rate go from 17% on outbound to 3% moving to an account-based sales development model. Because they're all the right fit. It's not too small. You don't have to squint your eyes to be able to say, like, I think that's sort of the right fit. Like, they all are exactly the company you want to call on. And so we saw DQ levels go way, way down after switching to an account-based model. And it is super hot right now. The challenges we ran into with putting 50 new people in a day is that as you added more people, that became difficult to scale. So initially, you could just go and you could grab the first 50 off of LinkedIn, off of a page on LinkedIn or out of a list vendor. Then you started getting multiple people in, and they would start colliding with one another. So now the person hears from me and a P. And now marketing chimes in. Now they suddenly are off message as well. And so it becomes more and more difficult to scale prospecting as you get bigger. And so just giving everyone an account list, and we actually do, Tyler, what is the number? Is it 200?
I believe so.
Okay.
Once they get down to like 100,
Yeah, they start swapping them out. So you take an account to a terminal point, which is...
What call, yeah, what's term?
And so for us, it's having talked to 3 people who tell you to go pound sand. Right? Yeah, that's probably a nice way of putting it. Or they're willing to do the meeting, right? And so, and what happens is, as each one of the reps, like, yeah, they literally told me that, my parents weren't married when I was conceived. And you're like, okay, we'll give you a new, don't get that joke? Okay, that'll land later. We're gonna swap this out and give you someone else that we think is awesome and won't swear at you. Or whatever, whatever the case may be.
And follow up on that. So 3 people, what does that touch plan look like for those 3 people? What is that cadence?
It's interesting. So whenever we did an SMB cadence, whenever we did our cadence, we were adding 50 new people a day. Those were meant to be super short, and we ran a 7x7. And what this means is we're coming at this person like the tide. I mean, every day it's like phone call, email, hey. And at the end, on day 7, we break up, and you all know the email. It's a funny gif with like a person's head stuck in the door, and it's like, the closing bus is on the door. mean goodbye, or a penguin smacks another penguin and says that I fall through the cracks, or whatever the quippy little breakup email that most businesses have is. From an account-based sales development perspective, we don't break up. So we continue the touch point. We double touch a ton. Step one is always follow the person on LinkedIn. Follow them, hear what they're saying. A great example, we just got a meeting with a VP at Forrester, and his tagline, his headline on his LinkedIn profile was helping people drive predictable revenue streams. And our rep actually reached out and was like, predictable revenue was written a decade ago. I hope you guys are doing something more inventive than that. And the guy was like so taken back. He's like, what? He's like, well, it says in your LinkedIn profile, got the meeting. I mean, it's one of those things that's so crazy. But it's follow them on LinkedIn first, double tap through the process, send in mail, like something they do on Twitter. How many of you have a Twitter list? How many of you even know what a Twitter list is? Awesome. Does it say, like, what industry are you in?
Human capital management.
Does it say, like, HCM thought leaders?
No, it's more like prospects, clients.
That's fair.
That's how I'll break it up.
So something that you may do, and something our folks do, is they'll create a list on Twitter that is like sales executives, you know, that are admirable, or like it's a horrible name, I don't know, but like you give it some descriptive name, and what the person sees on their smartphone is Tyler Bliss just added you to a list of smart sales executives. That's one of the touches. Swear on a stack of Bibles. It's genius, right? Follow, retweet, like, post. But it's a lot of phone, a lot of email. And so, there is no end now in the account-based sales development model. The idea of the breakup is like, you don't want to break up. You have these 200 accounts, you really want to talk to someone in that account. You know they're perfect. And you just need them to understand that you're perfect for them too. And so, it just goes on and on and on. But yeah, how many of you are doing like a 7x7? 7x21, 7x7? What segment of companies do you sell to? Is it like SMBs or?
Basically, anybody who's, we're focusing now on large media companies,
Okay.
those that are very like document heavy.
Okay.
Anybody who's using collateral to send like materials over to close deals.
Okay. Something we did, and it's interesting, and I don't know if it's right, so if you want to hear sort of a moment of we did something, I can explain why we did it, and I don't know if it's the right move. As we moved into larger companies, we actually took our 7x7 and we extended it, and we much more deeply personalized it, and we cut down the number that were being sent. But our theory was that big companies will buy slowly. Does that sound rationally? Is it rational?
Very.
I don't know that it's true. I was reading an article in Topo the other day of a company that sells enterprises, and they do a 3x10, just 3 touches, just 10 days, and then they bought, and they sell to a technical buyer. So I can explain the rationale why we went to a 7x21 on some of our bigger accounts, like that theory of like making it longer before we went to account based. But I don't know if it was the right move. We can measure a lot of that stuff, but I think arbitrarily big companies will buy slow, and there's probably no evidence to support that. So awesome.
Cool. Well, there's more. We're
Okay.
not done yet. Okay, so you're a new rep, you're having a conversation, value driven, things are going great. When do you hand that over to the account executive? How far do you expect a new SDR, or even a seasoned SDR, to take that conversation?
So I think that once you've delivered an insight, and once you have gotten them to the point where they're willing to do the meeting, shut up when you get the sale is what is a good rule in sales, right? And so it's like once they say yes to the meeting, and you have whatever qualification criteria you need. How many of you do BANT? A few. How many of you have heard of ANIM? Authority, need, interest, and money? Urgency and money. Thank you. I apologize. I slipped out real quick. But get whatever qualification you need. But once you have them qualified, and you say like, this is going to fit our SLA. This is going to be this is a company that we can sell to. Once you get them to an agreed upon time, I make the flip and don't try and take it too much further beyond that. It can kind of confuse the matter if you're delivering value in a way that maybe the AE doesn't, if the selling styles are not the same. So I think as soon as you get the person to yes and can confirm and validate that, get on the books, I usually play.
Cool. All right. Well, any book suggestions? Anything you're reading now that's super helpful you would recommend?
Have you guys seen Sales Development Playbook? I think it's particularly poignant to this group. It's by Trish Bertuzzi. She's with the Bridge Group. And we're actually, we talk about weekly trainings. We're actually covering one chapter a week all quarter, all 13 weeks of this quarter, in our sales meeting. It's like how you find SDRs. She had a really interesting idea, which was the 40-second interview. You guys remember your interview?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this interview. What do you know about me? What do you know about my company?
Yeah.
Just stop. And if the person can't give you a compelling answer in 40 seconds, thanks a lot for your time. Her premise is, I am not indebted to you for a half hour. Wow. Can you imagine that? If you got on a train, showed up here, and you're like, hey, thanks a lot for coming. What do you know about me? What do you know about my company? All right, nothing? Get out. But that's what she does. Like, that's part of her thing. But she talks about like hiring, she talks about recruiting, she talks about compensation. It's a powerful read, and it's really, really relevant for you guys. It's I know it's available for Kindle. I sent it to someone the other day. It's a great book. So
To pipe it in, I spoke with her last week, and she is willing to come speak at this meetup.
she is awesome.
And she is my hero.
I want to be her
And-
for Halloween.
Yeah. So great. But she's going to be here in June, and so we might actually move the typical date of this meetup just so that she can be our speaker.
That's awesome.
So,
She's
yeah,
incredible.
she's awesome.
If you can get Trish, she's the best, one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
I did Good Great recently, which I thought was good. I don't know that it necessarily applies to sales development, but if you're looking for a read about why some things make it a long time and why some things don't, Good to Great is really, really powerful. The idea of having a concept, a hedgehog concept, being really true to that's a good one. And favorite book ever, I know we talked about this the other day, Moneyball. How many of you have read Moneyball? How many of you saw the movie? Let me be snotty. The book was much better. How pretentious did that sound? But no, it's crazy. A lot of people think of that as a sports movie or book. It's really not. It is the ultimate manager's guide to hiring talent.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wasn't willing to overpay for things that other people valued. He had a hiring profile. He wanted OBPS plus slugging. He wasn't going to pay for home runs. He felt like home runs were an individual act. He certainly wasn't going to pay for ROI for RBIs. That's right. Because that's exactly just he wanted to wear. He had a strategy. His strategy was to wear through their starting pitchers, get into their bullpen by the third or fourth inning by taking a lot of pitches, and he literally hired to that profile. He recruited and hired and staffed his team, as we all do, with people who fit his hiring profile. I love that book. If you haven't read it, if you haven't watched the movie, it is by far one of the most powerful business books you never knew was a business book. Worth a read if you haven't read it.
We're going to open it up to Q&A. Before we do, bonus question.
Bonus question?
Yeah, it wasn't in the speaker packet. What advice would you give yourself as a young salesperson?
That's a tough one. That's sort of a level 3 deep question. Take as much help as you can get. I told you the story about me sort of by attrition getting a job selling enterprise technology. There was no one less deserving and I had a manager who cared for me and who gave me great guidance. And sometimes I think that we think like, well, I know this, or I read this somewhere. I went to a meetup and someone told me this. I don't need your help. Take as much help as someone will give you, because those people ultimately they can invest in you in a way that can take you to a new place. So don't be a know-it-all. Take good counsel, good guidance wherever you can find.
Cool. All right, before Q&A, big round of applause. Okay, we're going to do 2-3 questions. So we'll start at the front and work our way back.
Thanks, big fan.
Sure.
We use the product.
Awesome, thank
So,
you very much.
Commission, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So one of the things, talking about value, which is great, we have a great product and intuitively it makes a lot of sense. And we have a lot of awesome clients, but really sort of hitting them hard with the value that we bring in a quantifiable way. Approaching that so obviously the big thing on the website is we increase appointments by 300%.
Yeah, that's right.
Candidly, how the fuck do you get to that number? Is it done by research, like hard and fast numbers? I mean, everybody's being candid here.
Yeah.
But where do you beyond the SDR side, the product marketing team? What are they drilling down on? Is there a group that produces this content religiously, relentlessly, or how is this sort of done?
Yeah, so, you know, that 72% of stats are made up right on the spot, and so, but that landed better than the master joke I told earlier, which no one got about the Bears being married. Yeah, I thought that would land.
Figures lie and liars figure.
That's right, yeah, that's right. No, so we do have a great marketing team. Your marketing team is going to give you collateral that's going to say 80,000%. And when I was thinking about selling value, you know, it's like increase their ROI by 1,000,000%. It's like no one's going to believe that, right? It's like they went from 1 to 1,000,000. When I was thinking about delivering value, I think sometimes we mistake the case study for value, and the case study is not the insight. The case study is an example. And of course, everyone's going to brag on their best clients, right? We actually went out to 300%. We looked at our own sales development team, and we were able to, in that 7x7 model where we were burning hot and fast with prospects in what was a green field, we were running at just a breakneck speed of just more people in, blast them all through a cadence, super impersonal. I don't think necessarily, when we say 300%, I don't know that we're super proud of the fact that we increased our appointments booked by 300%, because that means that 3 times the number of people heard from us in an impersonal manner that was not effective, that probably damaged our brand equity in their mind a little bit. We have since slowed that number down in the world of account-based, because again, we don't have the opportunity to break up. We need to make this customer have a meeting with us. We need to have that disco call. We need to have that demo. We have slowed our roll, but we still see customers who see 200% and 300% increases. There's a guy, he's a new case study, but I got the original email. It's a guy named Barron. He works for a company called Vivid Cortex. He's their CEO. And they probably look like some of the sales development teams in here. They had 4 SDRs. He sent me a report out of Salesforce. And those 4 SDRs could do 100 activities a day, so 25 a day. And he described them as frantically working their fingers to the bone. And with technology like ours, it's in the sales acceleration space. I'm not here to sell our product. I'd love for you guys all to buy it. Go to salesloft.com. We'd love to talk to you. But that's not my purpose here today. His comment was that with sales acceleration, that same team was able to do 500 activities in a week. And it comes back to the question we were having earlier. If I understand your process and understand exactly what a week looks like today, and then I sell the future to you, and it's not even like I'm selling you some future, it's like, if you need the number at the bottom to be higher, just change the top number. If you can just change the top number, if you can make your 200 activities, 350 activities a week, 700 activities a week, does that mean you have double the number of meetings? I don't know, math seems to work. Great. And you got a $15,000 price point, and you're closing 30% of your deals. If you had 10 deals instead of 4 during the span of a week, how does that drive your ROI? If that's the actual sort of talk track we would go down. Yeah, I don't, now we're showing people performance gains in the 50% range. Not that we can't do 200% and 300%, but like, if you want to be personal, which is what we think drives effectiveness, don't double the output of sales development rep. Increase it by half. Give them tools that make them more effective, but allow them to be sincere at scale. And in doing so, you actually can drive more meetings. But yeah, that's how we came to the number. We got a bunch of case studies. We have a marketing team that is generating those case studies pretty religiously. I love social proof. Can I say something? I like you all. I'm just meeting you all. I don't believe anything that comes out of any of your mouths. Nor should you believe anything that comes out of my mouth. Because I am a vendor and I represent a brand promise from my company. How many of you have gone out and found what Gartner says about your space? Those are the powerful ones. I love social proof. Gartner, Forrester, Aberdeen, any sort of a research study. There's a great, as we think about one of the efficiency killers in sales development, it is the squirrel syndrome. It's the interruption syndrome. Because when you go into your CRM, you see send email 2 and then make call 3, and now I've got to send reply to email 1, and then I've got to do this meeting. It's just this sort of constant process switching. And so we pull activities like email 2s, and you have 13 email 2s that all need to go out, and you can sort of do them all at once. I went out and did some research. University of California, Irvine did a study that found that an interruption takes 8 minutes to get the rep back to the optimal level of function. So as soon as it's like, hey, quick question, you do this? Are you on Facebook? People use Facebook anymore? Snapchat? Wherever you go. As soon as you do this, it's 8 minutes before you're able to get back to the level of efficiency you were at. I felt like that was true. I went out and found data that backed my point. And so when we're selling, when we're actually training our reps, we're training them on the fact by grouping like information together, we cut down on interruptions, and by cutting down on interruptions, we make your team more efficient. And there's some social proof that proves that. So I don't love my case studies as much as I love what other people say about our sales.
That's all.
Cool. Other questions? One in the back, HCM guy.
Yeah, no, I had a similar question as Ryan. I was gonna ask, when you sell on ROI and things like that, someone could probably come to you and say, Derek, that sounds great. You can make my SDRs twice as productive, but I'm not sure I really believe you. So I was gonna ask, similarly, do you focus primarily on customer references and case studies and things like that to back up, selling on value and ROI?
Yeah, it's a great question. How many of you have a product that has a trial? So the ones that have a trial, there's an instant proof point. It's like, go in and try it. Go clicking the buttons, and see if it works. See if it works for you. So we have some folks that will enter a 2-week trial that is very much led by the AE. We don't do a ton of reference calls, and our price point is low enough. What's your average price point, just ballpark?
$45,000. I happen to be a SalesLoft customer.
Yes. But with that said, yeah, for $45,000 a year, they might need to talk to another customer at our price point where we're selling to teams that anywhere from 5 to 150 SDRs. They oftentimes will satisfy with the case study. And so, yeah, if they don't believe it, try it. If you try it and still don't believe it, we can set you up to talk to someone. I just always hate, your reference customer did not sign on to be your reference customer. They didn't sign on for their day job to be closing deals for you. And so the less you can use them, the more you can put things between them and the customer and being interrupted, and only the Glengarry customers get to them as your best reference, the better. And so I would definitely say, if you have a trial, use a trial, use case studies, use an ROI model. I was just selling to Dell, and he's like, I'm going to talk to my CFO tomorrow. Do you need ROI on this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, give me these things, the same things we talked about. I'm like, all right, what's a reasonable uplift? 50%? It's like, yeah. And we literally put it in what we call a brag deck, which is, here's what our product does, here's what the ROI is we've determined for your company. And then he did something interesting I've not seen done before. He's like, send me the source file for your ROI calculator. What he said was, my CFO is going to want to tinker with these numbers. Okay. And so he's going to actually go and use our own ROI calculator with his CFO to be able to describe the ROI. So, but we followed a model that was put forward by InsideSales.com, which was the brag deck, which is take the ROI that is agreed upon and put it right in front of the customer.
Do you have a referral program?
A referral program? Yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, yeah, we did. And grab it right after I can explain it. We do year one referral, I believe it's 10%, raising it to 25%. So yeah, we do. We absolutely have a referral program that I can share some information on.
And last question.
Oh, we got 2, 3. Lead. All right, paper, rock, scissors, you guys.
Okay. Why did you change your business model?
It's a great question. So we started off in data, and data is one of those things that just by the sheer nature of data does not have a long lifetime customer value. An example, people who need data are a lot like locusts, which that sounds really ugly. I'm not calling all the prospector or SalesLoft clients locusts, but you go and you take all the data you can from a data source, and that data source is barren to you, and you go and you move to another data source. Like, it is the nature of what they do. They have to continue to put leads into the top of the funnel. And so that entire space is vexed with not necessarily being a long-term vendor, but rather being a short-term vendor in an era where people were getting data in sort of a gray hat manner. Prices for data were being hammered way down. There were a number of reasons. We just didn't feel like we were going to be a long-term partner in any business we worked with. And we know that empowering their sales development teams and driving pipeline for those customers, that's really what the value is. That is long, sustainable, defendable value in the business. So we wanted to move from tactical, we wanted to move to a more strategic role with our providers.
We have time for a couple more.
Couple more?
Yeah.
I saw those hands. Where are they now? Move back.
Have you read, excuse me, repeat the phrase that, do you believe that there is a particular time of day to make the sales phone?
That's a great question. So this very same group they do meetups all over the country, and there was one that they did with Liz Kane from NetSuite. She was the global director of inside sales at NetSuite. And I was watching it, and she said, based on some data I found from Harvard, you should call at 8 to 9 on Wednesday and 5 to 6 on Thursday. And I literally started this really sort of rant of like writing, this woman is insane. And I went into our tool, and our tool tells you optimal times of day to call based on connect rates. Wednesday, 8 to 9. and see, here's the thing, and I'll share with you that you know, I have a bias because I'm a technologist, and if I'm a technology salesperson, and if I see another pair of flip-flops in the office by 9 a.m., I'm sort of dumbfounded, but that's not your target buyer, right? And I'm sure here in the city, you all think, well, you know, you gotta take the train, and like, people may not get here till 9, you may say, well, no one on earth, worldview, closed worldview, no one on earth gets to their office before 9. There's a ton of people who get to the office before 9. You know who's not there? The gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is not there. They get there right at 9:01. And at 5:01, they are shot out of a cannon like someone pulled the tail feathers on a pterodactyl, and they slide down a brontosaurus and pedal home. Well, they're like Flintstones reference? No? I know your audience, right? That's just way too old for you. All right, that's fair. All right, anyway. So there's a lot of research on it, but you should watch the one with Liz Kane, the Enterprise Sales Meetup with Liz.
It's in the Boston Enterprise Sales Meetup group, if you want to check it out.
She specifically cites that, and based on our own team's activity, I can validate that for our selling model, selling to VPs of sales, that data did carry over. One more?
Depends on region.
I think it depends on region as well. That's exactly right. You'd probably see people getting later in the valley but staying later. I agree with that. I don't know that there's probably no silver bullet. Silver bullet's only good for killing werewolves, right? There's probably guides that logically make sense for when you should call.
Your SDRs also handle inbound leads?
So we broke up inbound and outbound. And so Tyler, who was here, you've seen me motion to him a couple times. No one is sitting near him. I love that. Did you wear deodorant today? He's brand new. What's that?
A little embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed for you. Tyler is a brand new AE for us, but Tyler has gone through the ranks of being an outbound SDR, then an inbound SDR. I think the experts at this point all agree that you should sort of break the two up. Do you guys break them up here?
We did. Terrible. But
okay.
We want to move back to that. Yeah.
All right, sorry. I'll tell you a story from my own personal experience. When I was at Pardot, we did most of our prospecting outbound in the early days. So our reps were expected to do, and you guys laugh, but this was 2007, 250 activities, book 6 meetings a week, do 6 meetings a week. We had no lead gen people. It was literally me and like 2 other people doing our stuff. And at some point, we would occasionally get these inbounds, like a test drive or whatever. And the reps started saying, well, we deserve to have those. We deserve that. All right. So we're going to take those, and we're going to if someone puts one for sales, it's going to ring the entire sales line. If inbound leads come in, we're going to give them to the reps. What do you think happened? Productivity hit the floor. Why? Me calling someone who doesn't know who we are, I may actually miss the inbound call.
Yep.
And their productivity went down, down, down. It took us about 3 weeks to figure it out. It's like, holy smokes, like we don't have no pipe, we're not gonna get there. Like, oh my God. Like, wait a minute, what happened 3 weeks ago? Like, oh yeah, that's right. We had to push one dial all of sales, and now I've seen our call numbers really basically get a shovel and dig a hole in the ground. They've gotten so bad, and so we stopped that. And I think that whenever you have people doing both inbound and outbound, who'd you rather talk to? The person who just asked to speak to you on the website, or the person who has no idea who you are? You always find yourself converting the inbound leads better. You'll always find yourself not as adept at outbound because those are hard.
How far does the SDR for inbound goes?
What's that?
How far does the SDR take the call for inbound? Is it just call and qualify and then hand it over?
Yep.
Or?
Call, qualify, hand. Yep, that's exactly right. Schedule a qualified meeting for us. So they take the exact same distance as the outbound SDR, which is what we consider to be an MQL, or once we have an SDR.
There are a lot of tire kickers for an inbound.
That's what we found on those people. The push one for sales, they weren't amazing prospects, but the perception was they were amazing.
Particularly if you have a new product and it's been written up, I get a ton of people go on your website, and they just want to kick the tires, and they want to chat with someone that they're, you know, they like technology,
They're not buyers.
but they're not buyers necessarily.
But they're friendly, right? And if you think about from aware, and customer, they're in the aware category. And so instinctively, you can have a better conversation than the unaware person who's further from interacting with you. But yeah, to your point, the quality of them may not be as good. There could be tire kickers.
And people who respond to an outreach versus inbound, take people who respond to an outreach every day.
Well, the other side of it is you can control the size and makeup of the person that you're talking to when you're going outbound. When you're going inbound, it's hard to scale that quality. Horizontally, it's hard to build. It's nice to have great inbounds, but I mean, the outbound side, you get exactly who you wanted, exactly the company you wanted, that's exactly the pain that you solve for.
We're going to do one more question from the audience in the back.
Yeah, so far you've been talking about selling products, all right? So I come from a company where we sell service.
Okay.
And, this is the first year, just trying to get that value we're talking about, like, the service we provide, searching optimization. So the first year, our goal is to be the best years. So we achieved the goal, whereas like Google Top SEO for devices on the first page.
Okay.
Now we're in the process of actually taking that value and using that to kind of like increase our client counts. What's your experience selling services, and how do you use a value proposition like that to sell them? That's important.
I will share with you that I don't have as much experience selling services or sold services. I would assume that the big distinction is, I would say that I met someone in here who was with Betts Recruiting. Where are you at? Right there. And I was saying that selling the unseen, selling something that is a service, not a product that I can point on the screen and click, is way harder. And it requires a better level of salesmanship, and that's not to puff anyone's ego up, and that's not to downplay what I do. Like, I can always click a button. When you sell a service, you've got to get them to believe and buy in. There's a lot of social proof that has to happen. And so I would think it's much more difficult. Do you have any sort of feedback?
I sold a catering service, and I was selling my team. It was a startup in San Francisco, and there was already an incumbent in the market here in New York City. And I would only get through to someone once the incumbent had messed up and not delivered lunch, or it was cold, supposed to be hot, it was hot, supposed to be cold. That's when they'd call me up, or they would answer my emails. But I was selling my team, and they weren't willing to give it a shot. But it was tough. I like selling products.
It's for selling the unseen.
It's the people and the experience, right?
Yeah.
It's the experience of working with you over anyone else.
Exactly. It's that distinction that you can literally go to your computer and Google us, and we're right there. Not a lot of companies can say
Like
that.
your ratings, your reviews, like all of that, it takes a lot more.
All right, everybody. I want to thank, on behalf of everybody, Derek Grant for coming all the way around.